I think we're good to go. Probably. Hi everyone, my name is Nexos Floof. It's so lovely to see you. And I am here today to give you a tale of two 5-1s. Two completely different lists, the stories behind them, and the majors that I took them to and how I did. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and run the intro, okay? Before I start losing it. I think that was a good one. Was that a good one? Alright, Editor Floof, how do I have better lighting right now with less of my... regardless, hi everyone, this is Editor Floof coming in about 30 minutes before this video goes live. I was dumb and forgot to kind of mention at the start of this. This is just a general recap. I don't go super deep into the tactics or how the game's played out here. This is general, just I went to two opens within a week of each other. And here's the experience. I went 5-1 with two very different lists. I recapped the games generally. I will be putting out two different videos here hopefully pretty soon, breaking down more in depth of how each of the games went. But if you just want to hear the experience of how was Challengers Cup, how was LVO, how do these lists performs, is Gene Stealer Cult still dead? All of these things, it's going to be covered in that video. The nitty gritty of like, I moved up here to do this, to do X, Y, and Z, this list performs like this, here's the numerical breakdown of my output into these, that stuff is coming in a later video. Cool, great, fantastic, love y'all. There's like nothing right here yet, so it's very bouncy, the audio, I gotta put something there. But anyways, hello everyone, like I said earlier, my name is Nexos Floof. I am one of, if not the best Gene Stealer Cult player in the world, and I am here today to give you a rundown of two of the lists that I brought to not only green banner events, green banner event companies, Jesus Christ. I am here to talk to you today about two different lists that I brought. The first one to Green Banner Events Challengers Cup 2 weeks ago in Salt Lake City, and then last weekend's Las Vegas Open brought to you by Frontline Gaming. Now, both of these, I feel that I brought very off-meta lists as to what people are trying to bring with GSC, and I want to talk a bit about them, why I think that they're the best list to be running right now, and really dig into it, okay? So, to start off, we're actually going to go with Challenger Cup first. Now, I'll preface this is my first team's events. I'm still learning a lot about what the format has to offer in terms of like how deep it is and all the nuance to it. It's genuinely very, very fascinating. I loved it. I genuinely really did, because it not only gave like the whole matrixing of like figuring out how you do into 8 out of the lists, it really not just being like a vibe check, right? There's also this thing of like, well, maybe we want me to take a worse matchup because of the fact that I'm the one that can handle it the most, or I've got terrain selection, or we've already taken all the open boards away from this shooting thing, so it really can't be that bad. And overall, it's just, there's so much depth to it that I absolutely loved it. So, going into it, my list was Host of Ascension. It was actually the list that I had talked about when talking with Nick Nanavati and Ennis Wilson on my previous video, to where it's triple... See, I've already forgotten it. Hold on 1 second. It's going to be double Benefactus, double Biophages, a Primus, a Nexos, and a Reductive Saboteur for the characters. The 3 enhancements I brought was Prowling Adjutant on the Nexos, a Flaw in the Armor on the Primus, and then Assassination Edict on one of the Benefacti. Now, how the list played... Well, now, the rest of the list actually, we've got 5 Tacos, which are the Heavy Mining Tool Acolytes. Those are my Gretchen. They're going to stay on the home point, and they're going to farm me a CP just about every game. Anytime anyone had a vehicle get near my home point, they did run out and help kill it, but that was besides the point. Next up, we've got 2 Flacos, 2 5-mans of Acolytes with Hand Flamers, very good for just action pieces, as well as just any additional damage when I needed it. I've got 3 20-mans of Neophyte hybrids with the standard loadout of Mining Laser, Seismic Cannon, Grenade Launcher, and Weber. That's what I always take, 2 of each. Personally, I think that's the best one that you can do. I played around a while with like Flamer and Stubber in one of the squads, and just right now I feel like everything's just a bit too elite to really have a matchup to where you could take advantage of that, right? Also with teams, you tend to be like spec'd a little bit more one way or another, so this way I liked. Next up, we bring 1 Goliath truck. We have 2 Achilles Ridge Runners with heavy mortars and survey augers, 2 Adelan Jackal squads with your standard loader of grenade launcher, 2 power weapons, and a mining laser on the quad, 2 10-mans of hybrid metamorphs with hand flamers. I don't value just the flat 6 blood surge move. Listen, the D6 one rarely, if ever, came up, so just the flat 6 one isn't ever going to come up. And then 2 5-mans of pure strain gene stealers. So, just to go over this real quick, the standard way I would play this is the Primus and the Nexos are going to be joining a squad of Neophytes that are starting in my back corner. And their whole thing is that they're going to pick up at the end of my opponent's first turn, whether I go first or they go first. If I go first, that's kind of a dud. Who cares? If they go first, however, I'm able to have now 20 Neophytes that can come down turn 1 and make a lot of chaos, so it's something that my opponent has to think about with them going first, right? Not only do I have the advantage of going second, but I now have the advantage with the turn 1 deep strike. Overall, fantastic. The 2 hybrid metamorph squads are going to be joined by the biophages, to where it's going to give them lethal hits, +1 to wound against infantry once a game. Bio can obviously go Super Saiyan at one point as well. 1 squad is going to be coming in from rapid ingress. That way, when they make contact, it's going to be 32 attacks with sustained and lethal, possibly crit 5s, strength 5, AP2, damage 2. AP2, of course, because of the Ridge Runner buff. Not only that, but the 9d6 hand flamers does help a lot in terms of just chipping away a couple wounds. Not to mention, if there is truck support from the other squad, that's generally what's going to happen. The other 10 metas are going to be in the truck. 9d6 hand flamers at 301 is a lot of shots, but you're not going to think it does that much damage, right? But if it suddenly becomes 311, getting an additional AP from the Ridge Runner, and then getting twin linked because of fire support, either you have the truck swing out to shoot the thing that you're going to shoot with the metamorphs, or what you can do is you can have the Reductus Saboteur get in with open top, use her indirect to shoot at the person that the metamorphs are going to get with their flamers. You give them twin linked. So now it's 311. And when you're rolling like on average 35, but sometimes you spike. I went into a Scar brand and spiked into 50 hits. You can really chunk something with just mass amount of AP1 on that target. It's amazing. Now, what I will say is that this list tries to be very modal in the fact that it can adapt to what the opponent dislikes, right? What they don't want to go up against. If my opponent's trying to play this aggressive trading war, hey, here's some more Flacos and Pure Strains to be able to, keep that war going optimally for me as well, right? If my opponent doesn't want to have to deal with another 20-man because their resources are taxed and they just can't handle it, guess what? 6 points, bring back some Neos. If I feel like 2 squads of metas is really going to get me there, in addition to the 2 that I've already brought, that's only 8 resurgence points. I'm fine spending that kind of dough to help ensure the army. Not only that, but sometimes there'd be points to where I have the metas come out to go handle something that's on my natural expanse because they were really aggressive with the play they made, right? And the metas go, they hit, and then there's nothing that can really get to the metamorphs on my opponent's turn. I might actually leave the Primus squad down and pick up the metas to where I have, that turn 3 or turn 4 rapid ingress with this squad, and now I have a second squad of metamorphs that are rapid ingressing with sustained, lethal, and all these attacks. There's a lot of things that this list can do and a lot of ways that it can change. So I think, in my personal opinion, that it was good to bring Host of Ascension, specifically because of the fact that I think Host of Ascension is still the strongest detachment that we have access to in GSC. It's going to reward player skill the most, in my opinion. I think there are certainly detachments that are a bit easier, like Biosynctic Brood Surge, even Final Date a little bit, Xenocreed, Outlander Claw. Once you get it, I feel like it's easier, but it's really something to where I feel like when I put this list on the table and I'm able with my experience to understand what it would take, how the list needs to perform to beat my opponent's list, I am in control. And I like being in control personally. It also has it to where the list can be very aggressive if you need it, and the list can also relax and play a much slower game if you need. So the list changes a lot based on what you need, and I think that fit perfectly not only for what I like to do, but also in a team's environment. Just having that in a blunter role is fantastic. Being able to look at just about every list and be like, this might be tough, but I think I see my line. And if you are correct in that line, boom, you're going to make it. So overall, I'm just going to go over a quick recap of everything that I went into. First off, we had Casey Glynn on Crude Hunting Pack. This was 3x6 Rampagers, 3x3 of the little guys, the little shooty boys, 3 Skyrays, I want to say, and then 3 Hammerheads? Yeah, triple Hammerhead, triple Skyray, 3x6 of the Crew Rampagers, and 3x3 of the Crew Talks Riders, 2 squads of Stealth Battlesuits, some Hounds, a 10-man of Crude Carnivores, and Commander Shadowsun. Overall, this is very swingy to where if they go first, they can 15-5 me. If I go first, I really feel like I can 15-5 them. And effectively, that's what I told my team. I had some play into it, but I was like, I'm going to need to go first. But if I do, I've got a lot of play into this. And I did. I ended up going first. I deployed to go first. I was like, this is the only way that I'm going to be able to get this. So we just have to plan for that line. And the guy rolls like a 2 or a 1 to go first. I'm like, all right, we've got it. I rolled like a 5. Boom, great. I go first. I jail him in. And he's able to get out a little bit sooner than I expect on some points, as well as my secondary game is falling a little flat. There's some times where I go to score a couple points and I fall just a little bit short, and it narrows the gap that I had set up to where it ends up being, I want to say like a 12-8. Let me actually bring up the scores here real quick. Yeah, it ends up being a 12-8, which overall pretty good. I can't complain about that. Next, we go into Felipe for round 2. This was into Blood Legion. It was a Blood Accord, the Blood Dog character, Blood Brand, Skull Taker, the Bloodling, Bloodthirster, Skull Master, 10 Bloodletters, 3 Bloodlings, 10 Blood Bearers, 6 Blood Crushers, and 2x5 of Flesh Hounds. Overall, a bloody good time. This was a very easy matchup for GSC just because what does demons have? I'm sorry, I don't respect demons as the faction. Felipe is a great person. I'm not saying I don't respect demon players. It's just the thing is that he puts his chaff forward. My chaff eats that chaff. Well, now he's kind of out of chaff, so he kind of sent his medium real things out to go eat that. And I kind of go eat them with some more chaff and like 1 real thing. And then he sends his like 2 to 3 bigs out. And I killed 2 bigs in 1 turn and bring Bellicor down to half because Bellicor didn't even kill 10 metamorphs. So now we're just sitting there at the end of 4 and he's got like the changeling, 10 plague bearers, and Bellicor that's gonna die right in front of me. So GG's. It was a 19-1. Overall, a very fun game, but I was just in control the whole time. I felt like that demons don't have enough resources to play into GSC, which just keeps buying back their resources. And this list is just mass lethals. And so I'm just putting a mass amount of saves on them. And overall, it's hard for the demons player to act. So going now into day 2, we went into Etique, Quebec. The Quebec guys, love them to death. They genuinely were some of the nicest guys. I played into Matt McWaters. Thankfully, the only person on that team that didn't sound French, so I had a delightful time. I'm kidding. But he actually kicked my ass a bit here. We both expected draws, and that's what we were playing for. The only thing is that I played too aggressively with how I was going and essentially gave him a springboard that he was able to use, especially when he called the wah, and like 7 of his 8 advances got 6s, and then he didn't fail a single 8-inch charge. It was, I gave him a small opening and he wrenched that open as best he could. It's round 3. We're projecting a 317. It's going to be rough because I bounce as well on my drop turn to try and pick him up. I don't do nearly enough damage. He makes a lot of good saves, and I was able to play the GSC game to where I'm like just going like, here's the primary denial. I'm going to take 5 points away from here, 5 points away from here, and just kind of nickel and dime him. And I was able to bring it up to a 7-13, just a small loss on my end. I wouldn't say pretty good, but when we were both projecting 10-10s, it's still a loss. So that's still 3 differential that was on me for losing. So, oh, also to go into the list real quick, let me just go through. I've got it here. 2 Beast Boss, Boss Snickrot, Gazgul Thraka, War Boss and Mega Armor with Teleporta, and just a regular War Boss and Mega Armor. We've got 2 10-mans of Beast Snagger Boys, triple trucks, a Battle Wagon, 5 Flash Kits, 10 Gretchen, 10 Commandos, which are going to be split into 2x5, of course, 3 5-mans of Mega Knobs, and 5 Storm Boys. Overall, really good list, and I thought, oh, they don't have enough attacks to deal with me. Well, they did. They fucking did. And it just, he was able to dig out my forces and like really get to me. And I was just able to make it long enough to where he wasn't able to get like burn home or anything like that, and it helped keep the scores semi-close. Yeah. Moving on, I unfortunately did not end the curse of having to play into orcs this game, or this day, as I go into Vincent on the Emperor's Chosen, I want to say is the team name. Really great guys. Genuinely, Vinny is one of the nicest men I've ever met. And he kind of got my defenses a little on the lowered, because like he looked like someone, he was acting like someone's dad, if you get what I'm saying. Just a real nice guy, giggly guy, and I'm just like, okay, this seems like it can be a chill one. And then as soon as the fucking game starts, the dude's just like, what if I just shot you in the kneecap? I was like, oh, okay, hell yeah. I don't mean that in a bad way, by the way. I'm not saying like he was mean or anything like that. Vinny's just really good. So let's go into Vinny's list real quick. He's on Tactical Brigade. He's making that work, which is nuts in and of itself. But to go over the list, he's got a Beast Boss, a Big Mech and Mega Armor with Mech Captain, 2 Big Mechs with Shock Attack Gun, Boss Snickrot, a War Boss, and Zodrog. You've got 10 Beast Boys, 10 regular boys, 5 Storm Boys, 3 trucks, 6 Breaker Boys, 10 Flash Kits, 10 Gretchen, 20 Gretchen, a Kill Rig, 10 Commandos, which are going to be split into 2x5, 10 Ludas, and then 6 Tank Busters. Overall, just a lot of stuff. Just genuinely a lot of stuff. I misunderstood this list and very much underestimated it, because I was like, oh, it's just got a bunch of one of everythings. But those one of everythings just kind of did what they needed to do, and that thing that they needed to do was damage. Now, that being said, he kind of pushed a little bit too early, because on my drop turn, or at least the turn I reacted to him, he didn't have the wall up, and I was able to pick up the 20 Gretchen with Zodrog. I was able to pick up 5 Commandos. I was able to pick up the Kill Rig, and I was able to pick up one other unit, I forget what it was, while weakening like the Flash Kits, right? He calls the wall, he eats a couple things in the middle, but it's one of those things to where I think he really did underestimate the damage of GSC and just kept trying to push through that main line and try and get into my deployment zone. And it's just, I had enough stuff. I had the metas coming out of the truck, I had Flacos dropping down, the bikes, all that kind of stuff to just like keep him in the back and eat everything in the middle. And it was a very killy game, and it could have swung either way, but in the end I was able to take it to where it was a 20-0. And yeah, that being said, Vinny is still a great player. I loved our game. I actually saw him at LVO. He went 5-1 as well, 5-1 there as well, and genuinely super nice guy. You're not gonna expect him to just beat your ass. So Now, going into the second to last game of the weekend, into Philip Sean, this was a mirror match. He was on final day, I was on Host of Ascension, but it's still GSC versus GSC, and boy howdy, not having to explain what GSC does for once is such a relief. I genuinely loved it. To go into his list, we got an Abominant, a Biophagus, a Death Leaper, 2x5 of Hyper Adaptids, and 2 Reductive Saboteur. I genuinely do like the character package here, it's very good. We got a 10 mana of Acolytes with the heavy mining weapons, so a 10 mana Tacos, 5 mana Flacos, 2 10s of Gargoyles, a 10 of Neophyte Hybrids, 5 Aberrants, 2x2 of the Laser Ridge Runners, a Mortar Ridge Runner, 2 squads of Adelan Jackals, and 2 squads of Pure Strains. Good lord, GSC has a lot of stuff. Overall, pretty good. I personally am not the biggest fan of the Bio Taco Squad, but at the same time, I genuinely do see like its applications, where it's good, all that type of stuff. Them hitting on 2s, giving them twin linked, you're gonna be killing vehicles with that, especially into like a big night or something like that. Gone, right? So overall, I think that's very good. I just think there was a lot of things in this matchup that kind of got a little bit invalidated. Ridge Runners didn't really have a good target. A lot of times they were shooting into 5 and 10 mans, which, yeah, they were cleaning them up with the lasers, but they just didn't super love that. I also was able to go first and with just bikes and pure strains and a couple, just banking a couple 9-inch charges, I was able to keep him a bit far back into his deployment zone, which ended up being very good for me because on turn 2 and on turn 3, you know, he rapids in 10 tacos with 5 hypers, and then he rapids in 5 aberrants with 5 more hypers. All of those things are landing in his deployment zones and are having to move up to the center objectives to try and retake them. And that's exactly what I want to do. I don't want them landing in the middle objectives and pushing towards my home, right? So I have to keep him caged. It would be the same thing if he went first. He would be trying to keep me caged so that Neos aren't landing on points and he has to go dig them out, right? So overall, a very good game. I could genuinely see it going either way, and Philip Sean was definitely a very, very good player. However, just by getting the first, I also misplayed a couple things for primary to where I could have I could have put some things on some primary at the very end. I didn't realize that he could just string out one of the hypers between 2 points and didn't have to worry about a charge because another unit could go do. I didn't assess his resources enough. I was a little tired. Let him get 5 to 8-ish more points than I would have wanted. Either way, it still ends up being a 13-7, which overall, good game. Moving on to Natalie Hill, Imperial Knights. It's just real quick, just 2 Cerastus Knights, 2 Knight Crusaders, a Calidus, a 10-man or a 10-woman of Battle Sisters, an Immolator, and that's it, right? Yeah, 4 bigs and some allies. It was good. However, I had been worried about in my Imperial Knights matchup since Codex, ever since Ben Urich bad touched me at Tacoma. And I was thinking, like, I don't know what it's really looking like right now. I know a lot of people are worried about Knights just straight up running at you. This is detachment for it. I was giving it like a small win. And then I remembered that GSC just disrespects big Knights and just kills them. So round 2, I killed both of the Atropos. And then round 3, I basically killed both of the Crusaders. One lived on 2 when it was tagged by 10 metas. It battle shocked. It wasn't falling back. It died on her turn. It was a slaughter. I will say I didn't play primary as well as I could have because I was just like, I'm just gonna table you and then I'll score my points. So it ended up being a 19-1 instead of my second 20-0. But overall, it was a very confident win. It's just things dropped down. I went into my drop turn with 3 CP. She had got an Atropos onto my natural expansion and one in the middle. The one in the middle, I had the Neos that were on my home point walk out, as well as 20 more drop right in front of them to see that boy. And then the Primus squad dropped to see the Atropos, while 10 Metamorphs walked up and had like a 6-inch charge into that Atropos, right? For the Primus squad, I used the Nexos to reduce the cost of the CP for the crit 5s, so that the Primus squad has crit 5s. They shoot into it, bring the Atropos down to like 10. Metamorphs charge in after their Flamers bring it like chip 5 more wounds. They charge in, they kill that big. The other big, I just used the 2 CP I had to give both Benefactus squads +1 to wound on it, and a Benefactus that is going to be hitting on 3s but wounding on 2s with both of the shots. One of them is going to have sustained lethal. Very, very good. Very good. Both of them just picked that knight up like that. I think, actually, yes, they did have the +1 to stealth, or +1 stealth aura. So all of my heavy weapons were on 6s. All of my Benefacti were on 4s, but it just dice just allowed me to do what I needed to do and cleaned that big knight up as well. I also had 5 Flacos pointed at as well in case I needed to pick off like 4 or 5 more remaining wounds. Saboteur had also walked out to throw a grenade. I'm getting too lost in the details. I picked them both up. She walks forward. One Crusader takes the Primus squad down to half. Another one brings the other 2 Neo squads down to half. She just kind of bipped it on rolls. As well, she was also trying to pick up a lot of 5-mans, the Saboteur as well. And so, in trying to pick up all of my little 5-man idiots, she left all 3 of the Neo squads still relatively healthy. They regenerate, as well as a rapid ingress from one of the meta squads. Boom, go kill the other bigs. By turn 4, I was at her home point, knocking on the door, going, "Hello, can I come in? I'm delivering death." It was a great time. Overall, a fantastic time. I would also like to once again give a quick little shout out to my boys over at Yet Another Warhammer podcast, because actually the coach for Team Lightly Salted Sea was my boy Jeremy Nakano. I'm so happy to have finally met that boy in person. He is genuinely a delight. He was giving me my little I was being a little shit, and he was giving it right back to me, which I loved in a loving way, by the way. I'm not being an asshole to teams openly, but you know, I'm messing with them during, it's round 6, we don't care. I'm messing with them during parents and all that kind of stuff. It's cute. Overall, I think the host list is the strongest thing that we can be doing right now. That being said, I definitely think there's still different archetypes that we can be working with. I also would say I think host needs a little bit more exploration, because while mid-range is good, I still think there's some things that we can work on to where maybe swarm host that still exists, where you can run the 100, 110 Neos and just a bunch of trash. I don't know. I'm going to play around with it. Now, that being said, I had a little bit of funny business happen with my LVO list. I'll just get the story out real quick. I originally thought it was when I was sharing drinks with the Quebec guys. I had like 10 shots at Challengers Cup. Oh my god, it was a lot. Don't drink, kids. Especially when people hand you a bunch of vouchers for free tequila shots. But so it actually was the day of list lock for LVO, and I'm going back and forth. Lists haven't locked yet, and I'm like, well, maybe I want to play host, maybe I want to play final day, and I'm kind of going back and forth, right? My team's saying, oh, we'll do this, but I thought you said host wasn't dead, so you should go host. Yada yada yada, right? And every time I submit, I hit the view list thing, and it keeps showing the host list. So even though I'm able to submit, I'm going, well, maybe actually maybe it is locked. Maybe Adam woke up and he locked lists. Who knows, right? So I just leave it as is, and I go, whatever. I'm going to do host of Ascension. I finish painting some stuff up that looks all nice, and then I don't worry about it. Next day comes around, and lists go live. And I look and I'm like, oh, let me actually double check to make sure all the war gear's fine, and if I need to message the judge to be like, hey, actually my mining tool acolytes, I forgot to say that they're going to have the mining tools, right? Something like that. And I look, and at the top of the list, it says final day, not host of Ascension. What the okay, let's make this work, right? So This is a list that I had not brought yet. I have not played anything in this list before. Well, okay, that's not true. I've played Final Day before, especially with hypers. Yes, I hadn't played what this list is trying to do, and it's mid-range Final Day, I guess is the way to say it. Now, it's very stereotypical of what I'm seeing a lot of lists try to make work. But it's a little bit less on the melee, and the guns are different guns, if that makes sense. But it's still like a little bit of shooting, a little bit of melee. I personally don't like that in Final Day because I'm a little bit worried about this little core stratagem called, is it interrupt? I've just been using the shorthand term of interrupt. There might be something different. I don't care. I'm worried about interrupt, right? If I'm a GSC player and I get some hyper adapted metamorphs and some hyper adapted raveners into my opponent, and I go, okay, I will attack with my raveners first, or I will attack with my metamorph first, and they kill what they need to. If it's any type of melee army, they go, cool, interrupt, kill the other thing that you didn't activate with. Damn, that sucks. I don't listen. We're fragile, so having a bunch of melee units in Final Day, I don't love. But you can kind of make it work to where the turns that I'm having hypers go in, they are assisting my neophyte shooting, and the times that I'm having metamorphs go in, it's gargoyles that are giving them the buff, not the hypers. So you can kind of juggle it a little bit. And there are definitely turns to where if you tax your opponent's CP on stuff that they want to do, there can be turns to where, like, well, you can only interrupt once, so this squad of hypers here, this squad of hypers here, metamorphs here, and then, you know, pure strains over here, right? It's still something that you can work around. But I digress. Let's go into this list real quick. Starts off with a solo Abominant. No aberrants for him to join, just a fella. This boy did work. I had just an extra 20 points, so I was like, screw it, let me try this out. I'm gonna make a saboteur into an Abominant, right? So go ahead, try that out, and actually he did a lot of work. He was just great to go be like, oh, they have also a solo character. Abominant's gonna go truck that guy. Or there's, you know, a Demon Prince walking in the middle of my opponent's army. All my melee stuff is gonna go eat their melee stuff. Also, this Abominant's gonna stand here and just say, hey, my last cannon hammer now has twin linked. Die. He did so much work. I love him. Benefactus with the sustained enhancement. Overall great. I think if you're going to be bringing this enhancement, you should be putting it on neophytes. If you put it on a melee unit, it's much harder for that melee unit to get a second activation than it is for a neophyte squad, in my personal opinion. So you get more mileage out of the sustained on that than on something else. We've got single Biophagus, a Patriarch with the Ignore Overwatch enhancement, and a single Reductus Saboteur. For my battle line, we have a 5-man squad of Acolytes with Hand Flamers and a 20-man squad of Neophytes. Standard loadout. We have 1 Goliath Truck, 3 Achilles Ridge Runners with Mortars and Survey Augers, 2x5 of Adeline Jackals with their standard loadout, a 10-man of Hybrid Metamorphs, 2x5 Pure Strains, a Death Leaper, 2x10 Gargoyles, and 2x5 Hyper Adapted Raveners. This is basically like the other list, except I took out 40 Neophytes and 10 Metamorphs, and I put in all of the Tyranid stuff and a solo Abominant, right? Like it's pretty similar to what I had run the weekend beforehand. And so I think that did end up helping me a lot. There are still some things that I don't super love. Specifically, not having 5 tacos to sit on the home field made some matchups a little awkward on what the hell is going to sit back here. Especially when, like, my only backline at points was like 3 Ridge Runners, and they do have, you know, my opponent did have some las cannons or whatever. And I'm like, standing here on layout 1 on Hammer and Anvil makes it a little shaky on like a Ridge Runner sitting on the point, right? Thankfully, a couple times I was able to sticky the home point with Neos and then just kind of screen it and not have to worry about it. But it's yeah, there's some problems with this list, but you know, maybe we'll iron it out in post. Now, moving forward, some things I do want to talk about. Achilles Ridge Runners. If you're going to be bringing the mortar, in my opinion, take the Survey Auger, because even though this list doesn't have a lot of things that want to benefit from the ignores cover, most of the time you're going to be near a Tyrannid, or what you're shooting is going to be near a Tyrannid outside of round 1. And so you're going to be getting the +1 to hit, and you can only at best hit on 4s. So I don't know. I liked it. I think the only time you want to take spotters is if you do use the laser cars, and I'm not the biggest fan of them personally. So yeah. Now, everything else plays pretty standard as to what I talked about from the Challengers Cup list, to where it's very mid-range, it's very modal, what you want to do, where you want to have things go into, all that kind of stuff. Once again, list gives you the ability to put the game in your control. There aren't as many different things that you can buy back, but it's still very good. Another thing that people ask me about as well is why no 10 mana Pure Strains? I never really had the Patriarch really going in with all the Raveners and all that kind of stuff for Gargoyles. He kind of was just like a missile that was there to stand and look scary, and then whatever he goes into, he probably trades down. So why not save 75 points on that trade down and go spend that somewhere else, in my personal opinion. And even then, like, even going into like the ideal stuff that I knew he could kill, it was still just like a, yeah, but you're gonna die. Like, I don't love it. So let's see. The first round is oh, wait, actually, let's do this. There we go. We go Chase. Ted, we got Euless, Isaac, Oscar, Colin. Okay, so going into matchups, our first round is into Tyrannid Subterranean Assault, which is just very standard. Well, I don't even know if it's very standard. These lists change so much that I genuinely think Tyrannids are so cool right now. We got a Flyrant, we have a Trigon Prime, a Trigon that's just a character, 2x10 Gargoyles, a Biovore, a Lictor, 5 Raveners, 2 Maleceptors, and 3 Norn Emissaries. Very thick list, something that's going to stress the amount of lethals I have. I was a little bit worried going into this, especially when my opponent rolls to go first. However, he made a bit of a misplay by just going, I don't know what your damage is like, I'm a little worried, and so I'm actually just going to stage the Norns and have them move up turn 2. And I went, great, they're never touching the point, and was just able to screen and constantly throw stuff to keep them back. A Norn didn't walk onto the point that it liked until round 4, and it was just very good for me to essentially keep him pushed back, Saboteurs and Death Leapers on the points that I wanted to hold, and everything else is getting screened out. Very standard way to play, to where I'm allowed to play my board control thing. Where is my bone? There we go. Going to me. And it ended up being an 18-2 victory. Overall, pretty confident. I will say Chase was a fantastic guy to just meet and talk to. I loved him, and he set the tone for the weekend off right, and I genuinely really loved it. So moving forward, we go into Rocker Ted. Rocker Ted, I call Rocker Ted because he looked like that one dude from the like those animations. I forget which one it is. I don't know. He's tall white dude, long hair, rocker outfit. You know the type. We love him. They're great. He's on 1,000 Suns. The Demon Prince with the +1 strength, AP, and damage enhancement. Exalted Sorcerer on disc. 2 Infernal Masters. 1 God Crystal, of course. Magnus the Red. 2x5 with Bolters. A 10-man with Flamers. Chaos Rhino. 2 Megalith Vortex Beasts. 2 Sekitar Robots. 3 Bow Goats. And 10 Zangors. Overall, kind of a scary list. 1,000 Suns at time can be a rough matchup for us. So I was a little worried about this, but when they had their turn of, here's a bunch of damage and all of my stuff, and I went, well, here is my response and just a bunch of damage and all of my stuff, and I was kind of like worried, like, oh, the crackback might hurt. That I just kind of like looked up and realized that all that was left was like a Mutalith and Magnus, and like everything else was kind of touched. Yeah, kind of rough for 1,000 Suns right now. Oh boy, they got hurt. They just don't have, I think if they had just a little bit of points decreases to where they just got one more unit, they'd be in a good spot in my personal opinion. But for that one, yeah, as soon as they started to die, they started to die. And it became another 18-2 victory to me. Overall, very good. Nothing against Ted. Great player. Played very tight. And just once again, both him and Chase set off a lovely, like, you know, I enjoyed my day one a lot. Until I played in the Euless, my one loss for the weekend. This bastard. So Euless was on Necrons, Star Shatter Arsenal. He brought a Nightbringer, Psychomancer with Chrono, Fields, Gorpek, Lord with Demanding Leader, Silent King. I fall asleep when reading Necron lists, I apologize. Ghost Arc, 3 Scarabs, a Canoptic Spider, 3 Triple Doomsday Arc, 2x5 Blade Ones, Locust Heavy Destroyer, and a Triarch Starker. The mission was Purge. It was very, very fun. I went first on Purge into Necrons. Necrons with basically army-wide 4-up invuln. It was a great time. I put like 8 las cannon saves on one DDA. It made 8 4-ups. I put like 10 saves from Hyper Dapid into another DDA. It made 10 4-ups. I put effectively 5 Flacos and 10 metas that had Twin Linked on their flamers into a Catan and then charged it, and 2 Biophagus saves got through with the melta damage, and then it was like 19 saves came through on the Metamorph sweeps, and the Catan lived on 1. Enough died in the crackback from that DDA into Hypers and the Catan into the metas that he out-OC'd me by 1 point each and got hold more going into his turn that he was gonna for sure get kill more. I don't like Necrons, and I think that their just design is terrible this edition. It's just not fun to play against, man. It's just not. God. Anyways, moving forward. That's also nothing against Euless. Euless is a kind of a local in the area and an absolute fucking gem. And he even said at the beginning, like, I think the only way my list can beat, like, I think you've got this. I think the only way my list beats you is if I outroll you. And then at the end, he was like, well, fuck. I outrolled you. So we joked about it. We had a lot of fun. Genuinely, as much as I like to rant about Necrons being dumb, it's just, you gotta lose some games. Now, moving on into talking about losing games, we have the icon of that, Isaac Terada. Lovely guy that I know from the Stat Check Discord, genuinely nice human being, especially with his list born too late to copy Liam, born too early to copy Ennis, who copied me, and born just in time to copy Lennon. I think here, so Isaac is on Shadowmark Talon. That was his list name, by the way, the whole fucking spiel. Is on Shadowmark Talon. He's on John Lennon's list with his Ethan Shawn, Kayvon Shrike, Captain with Jump Pack with Hunter's Instinct, Lieutenant with Combi Weapon with Colonel Surrent, 5 Intercessors, 2x5 JPI, a 3 and a 6 of Centurion Devs, 2 3s and a 6 of Inceptors. The 3s are Bolters, the Inceptors are Plasma, and then 2x10 of Van Vets. Pretty standard list, I would say. I think the only thing that shot Isaac in the foot is that John Lennon is bad at writing lists in Warhammer 40,000 because it was an easy game. It was an easy game. It was an easy. I'm being a little shit. This guy's gonna roast me on Art of War, but it's whatever. This is my channel. I get to make the ha-has here. I was gonna crack back and be like, the only thing haha is the way you play. Look at this deployment. Yeah, whatever, nerd. Go win a fucking open. Anyways, moving on. That was a win, by the way. It was like 13-7. Not much to say about it. I went first. I kept him in his deployment zone. He wasn't really able to get out. I was holding the point with like Saboteurs and Death Leapers and just keeping him off while using Gargoyles to steal his primary. Overall, great game. 13-7 to me. Moving on, Oscar Ruiz. I don't know what the list name is and it scares me, so I'm going to move on. Oscar was a great guy. I believe he's from Texas because the Sanctum guys knew who he was. And I genuinely had a very good game with him. He played tight at the very start, to where, like, you know, we were like, is this angle this and all that kind of stuff, which, like, oh, we're playing this game. Okay, hold on, let me clean up real quick. And even in those tight games, it's so nice to have an opponent who's still able to laugh and joke and have fun. And even until the end, we were able to do that. He was kind of getting diced near the end to where he just wasn't able to make saves. I was rolling hot. There was an instance to where 10 metas and a Reductus Saboteur killed a 10-man of Plague Marines with a character. There was 2 characters attached to it. There was essentially, at the end of my shooting phase, there was only 1 character left. It was wild. It was like 3 Marines died to the mortars going into them because I had stubbers going somewhere else, so kind of all of my mortars went into them. I rolled for a grenade and killed 3 more. I just got 6 4-ups. So 3 Marines are dead right there. And then even with wounding on, I think it was 6s or 5s. Yeah, they're T6, so I was wounding on 6s. Even through that, it's just, I put a billion AP1 saves on him. He didn't make fucking any of them. And he's just, they're dead. Him and I both were like, huh, that's not supposed to happen, but like I kind of needed it to happen because of the fights first. And yeah, it just, I'm rambling. A lot went right for me in this game. He played very aggressively. Essentially, it's hidden supplies, the one with the additional objective. He just put stuff on all 4 of them and was like, try and kill me. And I just had a very good damage turn and was able to kill him. Like I had talked about earlier, Solo Abominant went into a Demon Prince and was able to not one-tap him. 1 got through, dealt 6 damage. He kills him back, and then I stand back up and charge into him again and end up killing him. Now, I think overall, all this stuff was just super... Basically, if I had a bounce turn, he was going to win this game. He was going to shove me off of everything. He was going to kill everything I had, and it was going to be very, very hard for me to come back. But once all the Plague Marines were dead, and he was down to Demon Prince, all he had was like 2 bloat drones and a Mephitic, and that doesn't kill a GSC army, right? He also had like 3 Terminators with a character that once they dropped, they killed the 20-man. I just let them exist. They're on like my backboard edge. They're not near my home point. They're just in the back. And so I just kind of moved everything away from them so they couldn't get to me. I was like, cool, you've got that. I'm going to go take everything. I'm going to go take your home point. I'm going to do all this stuff. And I sent a very good lead. It ended up being a 14-6 to me. And yeah, had a great one. Now into the last round of LVO. I'm a little tense here. There's a good chance where maybe, just maybe, I can make it into the top 16 if I do well, if all of my opponents do well. There's a world to where it happens, right? It's off opponent win rate, so anything can happen. So I go into Cullum, also another local. Genuinely a nice guy. First time I've ever played into him. He was on Death Watch. He had Captain and Gravis Armor with Tome, a Judiciar with Thief of Secrets, Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, 5 veterans, an Impulsor and a Rhino, a 6-mana Blade Guard, Death Watch Terminator Squad, and Cursor Squad, 2 Indomitor kill teams, Storm Speeder, a Talon Strike kill team, and a Caldus Assassin. I went first and I said, okay, I know Death Watch does damage. I know it does a lot of damage, and I know I can maybe kill 2 to 3 kill teams, and then he's just going to have whatever lives be the thing that just kills me, right? Just tables my army by itself. They just will, right? So I went and said, I need to just be as aggressive as possible. I got that first turn, and I scouted everything at him. Just bikes. I even scouted a Ridge Runner to help screen some stuff. Ridge Runner ended up dying like turn 2 or something like that. No, I think it did die on his turn 1 because he picked up a kill team to go see an angle on it. Listen, everything was going to die. So I just threw away stuff as much as I could, as quick as I could. For the sole fact that I needed to set a good enough lead to where at the end of the game, I'm projecting that he can keep it to where I only get a 5 or a 0 on primary, and he's going to get that 15, right? So I need to make it to where I'm getting 15s and 10s, and in this game, he's only getting 5s for at least the first 2 battle rounds. And I'm able to make that happen. The Storm Speeder does live when I feel like it should have died, and is able to deny me some primary at one point, and then the Inceptor kill team, I always forget which one that is also able to move on to essentially my natural expansion point. I only had the Ridge Runner on it, and he's able to keep putting 3 OC on it from round 3 and 4. So that keeps me to 10s there. But at the very end, from reserves, Bikes made a 10-inch charge, and Pure Strains made a 10-inch charge onto his home point to give me a 10 on primary on round 5, as well as making it to where the only points he could score was in the middle. And so he gets the 15 there. He stops me from, we stop each other from doing things. I end up getting the perfect last secondaries where I get like behind an established locust with my 2 squads on his home point. So I'm just like, cool, those auto score. And it becomes a 7-point game. Goes to me 11-9. And boy howdy, if just one more thing went like his way, there's definitely a world to where he takes that. But thankfully, I think I did make the right call. There was a couple misplays I had to where he was able to see 10 gargoyles with an impulsor at the start, which was on me. I just didn't think of where it was able to go. I had them staged up aggressively to also help screen out the 9, and it wasn't good. It was something that was absolutely avoidable, but oh well, we learn. Now, moving forward, as you can see, I did not make top 16. I'm only talking about 6 rounds. I finished 27th, 9 or 11 places, good lord, away from the top 16, and the dream of top 8ing 2 LVOs in the same year is dead. Very unfortunate. I wasn't able to pull it off. Scary did, which shout out to Scary. Very proud of him. He played out of his fucking mind. And I'm just a little disappointed with how I did. I feel like there's a world where if I brought host that I for sure could have won the matchups that I didn't, but you live and you learn, right? Maybe I do beat Ulyss, but what are my next 3 opponents, right? Now it's going into harder things. Maybe I pair into Baron. Maybe I pair into Scary. Maybe I pair into Folger, right? There's a world to where some other person would be there to stop me from getting to top 16 or top 8, right? I don't know. I can't say. All I can say is that I finished 27th, and as much as I like to say that I am the best GSC player in the world, I wasn't even the best here. Frank Kummel, a European boy, a European guy. I forget where they're from. They came up to me, introduced themselves. They were on Brood Surge. Genuinely really nice guy. He ends up getting 24th. His only loss was into Uric on round 5, and he's the one that takes best in faction from me. Congratulations, Frank. Genuinely, you did a great job. This was also his first, like, big event. I think he said he had attended 2 other GTs before, but I believe this was his first major, and for sure his first LVO, which, for this being your first LVO, getting best in faction, genuinely, great job. You did fantastic, and you should be proud. And yeah, I'll say, I think overall, I think a lot of people are overestimating just how much GSC got hit. I think that Host got brought down, but Host isn't dead. I think that there is definitely a world to where you can keep messing around with Swarm Host list to try and find it to make that work. But I don't know. I'm a little lost, I won't lie. I'm a little disheartened, I think is the word, because there are definitely some things to where I feel like there are more egregious things in the game than what Host was doing. I think for nerfs, it could have just been the change from reactive go up when shot strategy. Return to Shadows didn't need to be what it was. I think that if you just change it to what it is now, go up at end of turn, it would have been fine. Primus can keep the rerolls, sure. I think that the crit 5s maybe even could have gone to 2 CP if you wanted to keep the Primus rerolls, because obviously then you can allow him to hello camera, hello, I think if you allow the Primus to keep his rerolls, yeah, sure, make crit 5s cost 2, because you know now you have a way to manually reset it to where you can keep going it. So you might want to disencourage that, right? Sure. I think all 3 of the hits were unnecessary, but I look at it and like our damage is still fine. We still play the game great. So there's definitely some things where I want to play around with it, right? I'm working on some stuff. I've got new list ideas. I want to play more with host, but at the same time, I'm looking and I go, yeah, but playing with hyper adapted Raveners is really fun. So I'm having a lot of fun with Final Day as well. I don't know. I'm gonna mess around with both of them, see what I like, see what I don't like, and go from there. So yeah, if you enjoy the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that fun YouTuber stuff. I appreciate all of you. Donate to the little coffee link that I'll throw in there, because going to these events is not cheap, but I need all the help I can get. So if you like to see these videos and you like to hear these event recaps, you can help contribute to them, all that fun stuff. And yeah, that'll be it for today. Hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Or no, I don't do that. I'm not a generic. Roll the fucking outro. That's what I say. Is that a good one? Hold on. There we go. Okay, both of those were bad. So here, we're just going to do this one more time, and I'm going to be talking during it. That way the mic doesn't cut it out. Does that make sense?